T-minus 30 seconds and continuing on now. Continuing on at the T-minus 26 second mark, T-minus 25. We'll get a final guidance release at the T-minus 17 second mark. T-minus 17, final guidance release. We'll expect engine ignition at 8.9 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, ignition sequence started. All engines are started. We have ignition, 2, 1, 0. We have a liftoff. We have a liftoff, and it's lighting up the areas. It's just like daylight here at Kennedy Space Center as the Saturn V is moving off the pad. It has now cleared the tower.
Tower, y'all complete. We're in a roll, Bob.
Roger, Gino, looking great. Trust good on all pilots.
Okay, babe, it's looking good here. Roll is complete. We are fishing.
Very faintly, we copy the crew reporting S4B ignition. That's confirmed by the telemetry. Booster reports the thrust looks good on the S4B. This burn was initiated at an altitude of about 97 nautical miles above Earth. When finished, the spacecraft will be at about 150 miles above Earth and on its way to the moon, some 213,000 nautical miles away.
Roger, we copy. Okay, we're free. Rates look pretty good. Let's plug it together. Ready. She's lined up, not bad. Okay. Prime one. Mark it. Stand by. There she goes. Hey, guys. Okay, Houston, Ripple Flyer, but we still have number 8 bar full. Just around up things as we pitch back into LOI attitude. Lo and behold, from over the top of the lamp came here.
Hey guys and gals, Makuth 1974 back at you with another episode of our Apollo series. Today we are covering the very brand new Apollo 17 mission that I've added to Kerbal Space Program's mission controller historical missions. There's been a lot of changes I've been working on for version 1.0 of Kerbal Space Program. When that does come out, it is in experimentals as of I am recording this. It could even possibly be out by the time this is released, but unfortunately I would have to still do this series in 0.90 until I got everything pretty much all set with everything, you know, like all the mods and stuff. So for now we're going to keep with 0.90 even if 0.10 is out, and I am setting everything up for this series for Mission Controller for it to work now. Why don't I release this to you guys right now? Well, because, you know, 0.10 is coming out real soon anyway, and why, you know, work with it. Plus I can fix any bugs and anything like that I have happen. I also do plan on continuing this series, so I have decided to make an expansion for the Apollo missions. Now, these will not be historical missions because obviously we never expanded Apollo. We just went to the moons for this is the last human mission, but the premise is that the Kerbals decided to continue on and develop a mission to go to Duna. So it's going to be dubbed the Apollo Duna missions, which I've already added all the information to Apollo 17. We'll actually see it at the end of all this. That intro that you just watched was probably one of my most favorite intros I ever did. Used a couple mods in there. It's a lot of mods. Obviously, raster prop monitor, the shaking mod. I kind of took the shaking mod. It hasn't been updated since 0.25, and I kind of redid it for 0.90 just for myself. I haven't released it or anything. I'm pretty sure it did work anyway, even if you used the 0.25 version, but I recompiled it for 0.90 and did it. There's a couple other mods in there that add the sound effects of the shaking sound with the sound effects just completely made that whole first scene. I thought it was awesome. And then having the Apollo actually taking off in nighttime, I added some lighting effects with what limited ability I have to do in my editor. I did what I could to make that a actual night landing. It wasn't really launched in nighttime. But anyway, so here we go. The Apollo 17 mission is actually a little bit different. Kerbal system actually has 2 moons. And we've been to the moon plenty of times, so Apollo 17, the very last mission, is to actually go to Minmus. So that is what we're doing right now. And I believe the biome for this is the Great Flats. I believe that's what it is. I'd have to see it again when I look at it. It's a really easy target to hit. It's you got the Greater Flats and you got the Great Flats. The Great Flats are pretty much right next to the Greater Flats, and I think they're on the sun side this time too. They just basically popped into it, and I'll have to actually look for it and get it going. This is all standard interceptions. You can intercept Minmus almost the same way as you do the moon. You just have to do a few more adjustments on your way there because Minmus is actually at an angle, you know, a little bit different than what Kerbal and the moon are on, so it changes things up. But I basically kept everything the same. I have the our injection thing going, injection rocket going to crash into Minmus where it doesn't make any space junk. If you guys are wondering, I do use remote tech in this playthrough. I know I haven't covered any of it. The satellites and stuff have been set up for a while when I started first playing. So Minmus is covered, the moon's covered. I even have a few in Duna and Jewel and a few other things. So I mean, there's been other things other than the Apollo missions going on. I've only been showing the Apollo missions. So that is the Great Flats right there. Let me take a closer look at my screen here. Yeah, it's the Great Flats that we need to land at. And Minmus is, the Apollo pod is actually an extreme overkill for Minmus. I mean, it's an extreme overkill for Minmus. This is the Apollo J series, as we can still tell. We still have the Lunar Rover on there, or in this case, the Minmus Rover. And we still have the same issue. We're going to have the same issue that we had on the moon. I haven't actually fixed this yet, because I did all these videos pretty much consecutively. And, my idea now for the Apollo, an updated Apollo, would be to, when we land the lander, to keep the small lander, the top lander, attached to the rover, and then let it drop the rover off on the ground, and then kind of land the lander right next to it. So that probably would have been a lot better idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it when I was doing this, but who knows? Stuff happens. Oh well. I really have an easy time with Minmus. It's not even. I mean, look how much fuel I have left for for doing this. I'm just I want to put it in a certain spot. We are going to use the rover too, because I want to take some science and some soil samples here on the Great Flats, but I also want to get to the slopes. So we are going to take the rover out for a long trip to the slopes. For what's the rover really? That's just a Kerbal rover is its best use is to do that. Unfortunately, how a rover, and I wish they would fix this in 1.0. Unfortunately, how the rovers work are really terrible. So they're really hard to drive, and they just like to do all kinds of weird stuff. So here we go. We're setting up for our takeoff. I have to shut the engines down. I still do not have action keys where I can have this set up to do automatically with a key press. The upgrades to the buildings are extremely expensive, and getting the Apollo program up and running and everything else has been pretty expensive. So eventually we'll get everything all said and done. But the good thing about this is that I should be able to start getting the 5mm parts now after this mission's done. This mission pays out pretty well, and that is basically the whole plan of it, is to to get your space program off its roots. It's a little bit rough on the first few missions, but this mission really pays itself really well. I've designed it that way on purpose, especially to get ready for any possible Duna missions. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. The funny thing is that if you actually look at the Apollo 17 mission objectives, it says I've already landed on Kerbin, and I know why it did that. It's so annoying how the objectives work in Kerbal Space Program for this, and there's nothing I can do about it. If you take it just happens. I've tried to fix it 1,000 times, but it keeps happening. So there's not a whole lot I can do about that. The only thing that's keeping it from being completed right now, obviously, is the fact that it says I need a 3-man crew, and we don't have a 3-man crew on the ground, and the electric has to be greater than 400. There we go. We flipped it up again, and I'm like, oh crap! This time it's gonna explode. It seems to be okay. Well, if you actually use your Kerbal to break the landing, and it landed on its feet this time. This is a lesson for everybody. If you take a Kerbal and something's gonna fall, and you let it land on top of him, he cushions the landing for nothing bad happens, and it usually goes all right. As you can tell, this thing is extremely difficult to actually drive around, especially on Minmus with its almost zero gravity. Almost, not quite there yet, but yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. So we're going to get all these guys on here. They're going to take some soil samples. That's Jebediah. How can he take a soil sample? I'm not quite sure about that, but whatever. I somehow managed to do it, and it worked. We're gonna store all the science on the pod, on the lander, and we're gonna get going, and actually drive to the slopes over there to get some more science. For I can basically unlock all the science in this episode what I need to. I think I'm missing a few things after this episode, but who knows. I'm going to do some editing magic to kind of fast forward to other parts of the video. And here we go. Oh jeez, this is where the rovers always fail. It takes the littlest thing to set them off. But you know, Jebediah, being the most awesome pilot on in this quadrant, he can save us from anything. And you know, I just got the science and everything that I needed from the slopes back on our way. I do have that hugely cheaty weedy thing going. What is that? That program where you gain science from money, and basically I've pretty much unlocked all of my science just with that program, where when you do a mission, a certain amount of your money is turned into science. It's like ridiculously overpowered, but it's there, so I'm gonna use it. Right? We're not gonna say anything. So here we are. We're gonna put the flag down at the thing at our landing site. We're gonna do some interesting conversations here. What are we gonna say? Apollo 17 landing site, right? Yes, landing. And now the plaque text. Even though this is the last Apollo mission, Apollo lives on in Apollo Duna. The end. So let's talk about Apollo Duna. Apollo Duna, we can actually read it when we let's just get back into space. So this is what we're gonna do. We gotta catch up with this guy. We're gonna have to let it a few hours go by here. We have to get into the night. We'll have to probably take off at night. Yeah, there we go. So now he's gonna come right over us. I believe I missed him on this one. Yeah, I did actually. It was a little bit different because I'm at such an angle that I had to match his angle, and you know, when I take off from the moon, I go 90 degrees. That's how I do the moon stuff so easily. But this one, we're not at 90 degrees. We're at like a 45 degree angle. And Minmus itself is at like a 30 degree angle for compared to Kerbin. So right now I'm just trying to turn everything around to find out which way I need to go. I mean, I have plenty of energy, so I'm not worried about that. Plenty of Delta V. So there we go. I know I have to go this way to catch up with him. We're at 30, 40. There we go. We'll get this all caught up, and then I'll kind of get this set up a little bit later. Try to get us on the way. There we go. So yeah, these videos was fun to do. I'm glad I'm going to continue them. Apollo 17, technically the last human voyage to the moon, landing with human and the Apollo equipment. There we go. So right here I'm just going to kind of straighten everything out, for we're on the same plane as the command module. Get everything as set up as I possibly can. This is all interception stuff. This is all the fun stuff, you know, the stuff of intercepting. A lot of people have issues with a rendezvous with other vessels. It's something you get used to, and once you get you know, a good system going, it's pretty good. I'm pretty close already to what I have to do, and we'll let it fly by a little bit. I'm going to do an adjustment here and get us to intercept him quicklier. What the hell is quicklier? I don't know. Kind of doing my own thing here. There we go. I just kind of knew right there what I had to do, so I didn't actually set up any waypoints or anything like that. If you do it enough, you kind of learn how to do all this stuff. So yeah, basically we're matching speed now, and now we're what, 5 kilometers away? No, actually we're pretty close. Dang. Dang. There we go. Catch up with them. The Apollo J series. This is basically the last mission for the Apollo J series. We will have to update the vessel, the Apollo vessel, to handle more of a Duna type mission, which will require, you know, a different configuration. I haven't decided yet on completely what I'm going to do, but I have an idea that, you know, I'm going to go like constellation type system, or you know, like having more than one vessel that goes to Duna, like a support vessel that lands the actual habitat system, and then the lander and the actual Apollo pod that will bring the Kerbals to the actual ship that will get them there. You know, there'll be multiple launches and stuff like that. And of course, I will price out everything. So if we look, the contract is now done, just because of that whole Kerbal thing. Kerbin was already landed at, bullcrap. But, you know, basically the same thing. I have to get everybody off of the ship, get them onto the ship, and make sure I save everything. I have never ever put a command pod, an automated command pod on there. So yeah, that will float around in Minmus for a little bit. We're going to actually take a look here, a few seconds of the actual finishing of the mission. Like I said, it's already done because of the whole Kerbin thing. Still, let's take a look here. So this is where it's going to explain what the landing, congratulations, and how we are actually going to start off on the new Apollo Duna missions. A little explanation you guys can read once that gets all said and done. We won't dwell on it too much. You might be able to actually read it right now if it comes out clear enough on the video. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It might be too small. Who knows? But take a read, have fun. Let's get this vessel back to Kerbin. So, to basically get to Kerbin this way, I'm doing the opposite. Like I said in the Apollo 15 mission, it's a little bit difficult because it's at an angle to do it the way we do. You can still do it. It's just you got to mess with the angle. So I just rather do it this way. And basically what's going to happen, I'm going to get into orbit of Kerbin, and then I will actually launch. I will get it. See how close I got it right there? And, you know, that's basically all we do. We're going to do our classic no UI, going away from Minmus. Goodbye, Minmus. It was nice knowing you. You were a good friend. We drove on you with a rover and flipped the rover. Again. So, yeah. Anyway, there we go. Actually, if you notice, I'm actually going this way. So I'm just going to kind of close it off here a little bit. I'm going to get for us where we can land. Now, this is going to be a pretty fast landing. It's going to be a little bit, you know, we're going to have a pretty good re-entry speed. It's going to be a little bit hotter than, say, the moon, but we should be all set, because usually the moon we don't even hardly lose half of our heat shield, and in this case we should be quite fine. So there we go. We need to land our rover because this mission is now over. So Apollo 17 is done and over with, and I will continue this series with the Apollo Duna missions. Many different things will happen. Many good things will come of it. Like I said, we're going to have to do with some Skylab stuff. Skylab has to now be done after the Apollo missions, which is the way it was in real life. The actual landings for practicing on Duna, you're going to need to do different stuff. Landing on the moon with a colony vessel, the test the colony vessel out. Landing on the moon at the colony vessel with the lander, testing it, crew rotations, which we will have on the Duna mission. 2 crews that plan for the Duna mission. 1 will be a crew rotation, so that might be interesting to do. And if you guys ever want to train your Kerbals, you know, you can train them any way. You can actually use a mission controller to train them. You can set up the custom missions, and you can do things like the transfer of personnel to a space station. So I have a bunch of new hirees that I have to hire, a bunch of new pilots to actually be able to do these missions. And we're going to be training them on stays on a space station. We already have a space station in space, as long as it hasn't been deleted yet. I did put it as a scrap, but I can try to reactivate it for the Apollo Duna missions. We're going to do all this stuff and more once the missions are going. I still have to write most of them. I got the first two already written, and I'm going to kind of write them as I go, and we'll go from there. You guys will be able to see them. They'll most likely be released before I actually finish this series, so just remember that. At least I'll try to release it, especially with the Kerbal Space Program 1.0. But for now, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the series. I hope you're enjoying the series. Hit that like button and tell me how you liked the series. And thanks for coming in. This is Malkuth, 1974. Out of here.